Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business and share them with us so that we can all learn as well. Now, as always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, endless social media posting, or any of those old, ineffective traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. The link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, our special guest is Roy Newey. He is the owner of Roy Newey Limited, providing business coaching. And it's really exciting to have him on here just from what we were talking about at the pre-show. I'm looking forward to hearing his answers to a lot of these questions that we come up with today. So Roy, welcome to the show. And I want to start off by asking you a question that I always love to start off with, which is this. If you were somehow able to go back to when you started your first business, and I know you've been involved with several of these, but knowing what you know now, what would you do different in the first 12 months of starting up a business?
Thank you, Jason. Great to be here. I think I would go faster, be braver, be bigger, be bolder, and go faster. And what's the worst that can happen? They're not going to chop your legs off. So push the boat out and go harder.
Yeah. For people that feel like they're going harder, they're going fast. Oftentimes we feel like we can even go faster with that. Likewise, I know a lot of people, no matter how big or small the business might be, there's a little bit of risk aversion. They might feel like, oh, maybe, because you hear about mitigate risk and all those things. When you say you'd go faster, what would you do differently to go faster, but still be able to manage the risk of growing a business? Or do you even look at it that way? Do you see it from a different perspective?
So, as I mentioned in the pre-show, I've chaired 150 companies that are growing. And one of the main things that people don't do is they don't manage risk. And so the first item on the board agendas that I chair is the risk register and identify the key risks that we're looking at. Identify what's the likelihood of it happening, what's the likely impact if it does happen, and then what are the mitigating strategies? What are the one or two things that we could do that would help us reduce that risk? And then rescore it and say, has that mitigating strategy, once implemented, had the impact that we hoped it would by reducing the likelihood of the risk happening or the degree of impact it would have? And the quickest example of that is, let's say you're in a flood area. So, risk number one, impact of flood. What's the likelihood of it happening? Reasonably high, actually, due to where the river's been recently. Okay, what would be the impact? Well, it would damage goods in the warehouse. It could wreck the computer systems. Okay, what's the mitigating strategy? Well, okay, let's have 100 sandbags available in the backyard just in case. Let's keep an internet update on where the level of the river is. Let's have a flood team that's available with pagers or with mobile phones that could come to the business if need be. Let's make sure that stock is at least 3 foot up off the ground. And let's make sure the servers and the IT equipment also is 3 foot off the wall. So at that point, we can't reduce the risk of the flooding happening, but we can mitigate the impact on the business of it happening. And so what I find is with most growth businesses, I walk into the boardroom and I'll say, so how's business? And they'll say, oh, great. We had a great year last year. And then somebody will say, well, it would have been a great year, wouldn't it, if this hadn't happened or this hadn't happened? And then there's muttering. And so my primary objective as a board member is let's vigorously and let's go fast on managing the risk in this business. And then what that does is it gives you a settling confidence to really push forward, because we know we've done what we could to manage the risks that we can see. And every board meeting, every month, we review at the end of the board meeting, what are the new risks we've identified from our discussions today, and what are the mitigating strategies we're going to put in place?
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely brilliant. Really, really. It just feels like you do that. It brings, as you said, that peace of mind to it, and let it, instead of it just being what I call the 100-pound gorilla in the back of your head that's just always there. And it's like, but you ignore it still. Although,
You know, we'd love to do so and so, but if we take the competitors on, what would they do? What happens when the bank's up for renewing our finance? Oh, I'm not too sure. Well, let's open the curtains, bring the daylight in. Let's go and see the bank and let's have that discussion, you know, so that we deal with the 100-pound gorillas. And then we're just focusing on growing the business aggressively and knowing that to the extent that we can, we've covered our backs. There'll always be the COVID-19. There'll always be the thing that's going to blindside us. But if we get 90% of the risks under management, that's a good place to be.
yeah. One of the questions that I always love to ask is around the challenges we have in business, because we all have them. Oftentimes, I think no matter how big or small the business is, as the leaders, the owners, it can be lonely at times, but also feel like we're the only one that's ever gone through this, which of course is not true, but it just feels that way sometimes. So I'm going to ask the question a little bit different to you, because you've had so much experience on helping other businesses as well. But what I normally ask is, what's the number one biggest business challenge that you've gone through? You might say, well, actually, I've helped a business go through something that's maybe a bigger type of thing. But what's the number one business challenge that you've had? It could be in any area of the business. And what's the lessons that you've learned from that?
Okay, good question. Um, the biggest challenge I faced in my business, and I see this repeating itself in the majority of businesses that I work with, is that they have people who work in the business who, for a period of time, have been a megastar. They won't be a family member. They've been an early employee. They've worked their way up. They were responsible for doing this, and they were the people that sorted that out. But now, because the business has grown and grown, and the complexity of the business has grown, their ability to contribute and their ability to influence positively what's going on has become more and more diminished. But they're a survivor, so they live in the shadows. They're there, they're highly paid. They used to be in the red room when the panic was on. But today they're not in the red room anymore, and people listen to them less, but they're still there on a decent salary, and they are no longer able to contribute to the growth of the business at the pace that the business is now operating at. And the founders, the owners of the business, what they tend to do is, and what I did, is you leave them be, because he was the guy that got us into Africa. She was the FD that sorted out the bank when we needed them to be sorted out. And so what we do is we leave the undead. They sort of they hang about in the corridors, undead, and the business owner really doesn't want the confrontation of tackling them. And so when I go onto a board, I'm sat there and I can see 12 men, women, good and true, but there's a couple that are like really not making a contribution. And when you challenge the founder and the owner, what are we doing about Harry or Julie? They say, don't worry about them. They've been here for years. They're a great person. And if you knew what they'd done in the past, you wouldn't challenge them. It's like, yeah, but you want to grow the business now. Can they make a contribution? And unfortunately, for many of those people, they know they're the undead. They know they're not making a contribution anymore. They know they're hanging about and clinging on to the pension or the salary. And so the best advice is, let's sit down and have an honest conversation with them. Let's say, look, you have been brilliant. Without you, we would never have got here. And without getting here, we couldn't think about the next stage of the journey. But when I think about the next stage of the journey and the pressure and the horrors that that's going to bestow on the business and the workload that's going to put on you, I'm based on what you've done so far, I'm not prepared to put you through that mincer. And so I'm going to let you get off my train at this point. And if I may, Jason, That was this book,
Hmm.
Avoiding the Curse of the Undead, because people kept asking me your question, and I'd relay that story and say, that's so powerful, Roy. I have
Yeah.
people like that. I know who they are. They know who they are. Everybody knows who they are, but they're still there. And I said, right. So I wrote the book to give people a practical way of tackling the undead.
Yeah. What a great answer. Yeah, it's so interesting because I can look back in different things that I've been a part of the undead years and years ago of different things, and I just know, okay, it's time to leave. I've contributed to what I could, and I've seen that with my own business as well. It's like, okay, we need someone that just has a different skill set. They've been through things, that um yeah, they just have a greater level of experience and skill.
And the key thing is to remember that the undead, they've done nothing wrong.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
were good, wholesome people who committed and made a difference. But where we're going now, you're not going to cope with the mincing that's going to go on in the future.
yeah,
So you thank them. You say, look, without you, we wouldn't have got here. These chances wouldn't be available to us. And when you're in the area, when you're passing, when you've got grandchildren, you want to pop in, you are always welcome here and your picture will be on the wall. But this is your moment to get off my train.
yeah, yeah. I love that, and I love your approach too as well because it's dealt with compassion, and gratitude and appreciation for what was there. Because you're right. Sometimes you give what you can, and at that, they're just you don't have the skill to take it to the next level. And I think, as you said, a lot of people understand it. They're like, you know what? I just don't have. I've never helped a business go to that next level. I don't even know what I don't know.
And here's the final thought on this is that I grew my business to 180 million pounds a year and 5,000 staff. And I looked at myself in the mirror and thought, time for me to get off the train. Time for me to pass it. I had been, I hope this doesn't sound too bad, but I've been great at getting it to 180 million. I
Mm,
didn't have a clue how to take it to the next stage. And so
yeah,
bow out gracefully, wave politely, thank everyone, take my takings, and wish the people well who take it home. And the guy who
yeah.
bought my business grew it to 1.1 million, 1.1 billion. So it's like,
Wow.
way to go. I couldn't do that. So
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. That's really, really cool. Well, and with your own journey at the moment, Roy, what are you looking to do and achieve over the next 2 to 3 years?
so what I'm doing three things. I'm still chairing board meetings for people who want to grow. So I do that business coaching, mentoring stuff. Done one this morning. That's really good. I'm writing books because I get asked the same questions all of the time. How have you grown your business? How did you do it? And I explain, and then they say, yeah, yeah, yeah. But what's the magic, Roy? What's the bit you're not telling us? I say, I've just told you what it, and they're disbelieving. So I'm writing books. That's where my life is at the moment, really. Writing
Yeah.
books, sharing businesses. And this is the first one I wrote, which is called Ready, Set, Grow, which is a 12-stage plan for how I grew my business and how other people simply can grow their business. It's a simple template to follow. And then the third thing I'm doing is I am honored that I have for the last 30 years been delivering leadership workshop programs at Windsor Castle
Okay.
in St. George's House. And so I have the opportunity to get groups of business people together in groups of about 20, 25, and we stay for sort of 2 days and nights. And then we tackle a key set of business issues so that everybody leaves Windsor Castle with a clear plan. Because Windsor Castle is a place where amazing things have happened, amazing decisions. Henry V planned Agincourt. The king abdicated. The Great Fire. The kings, the monarchs, and the queens of the past are buried there. So when I bring them in there, I say, this is not an opportunity for selfies and playing the fiddle. this is an opportunity to make bold, substantial decisions because you're in a quiet place and you'll be challenged by your peers, as you said at the beginning. And there's something very powerful about peer challenge. So that's what I'm doing. Writing books, chairing boards, and working at Windsor Castle.
Amazing, amazing. That's fantastic. Well, Roy, for people that are looking to get in touch with you, learn a little bit more about what you do or how you can help them, what's the best way for them to do that?
So you'll find my my profile on LinkedIn. You can email me, roy@roynewey.com. And I'm only too delighted to jump on a call like this and have a chat with somebody, send them a copy of the book and say, and then ring them back a month later and say, have you read the book? Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to read the book. It's like, have you read the book? Because they've all got practical action plans in it, things you fill in and tick sheets and share with people. So that's the best way. LinkedIn or email me direct. I'll be more than happy to speak to people.
Amazing. Roy, thank you so much for being on the show today. And I definitely recommend everyone checking out the different links that Roy just mentioned there as well. You can definitely hear the immense amount of wisdom and experience that he can bring to your company. So, Roy, thank you so much again for being on the show and taking the time out today. And as a reminder, you're very, very welcome. And as a reminder, everyone listening, the show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way established businesses are creating a reliable acquisition channel of conversations with their ideal prospects that doesn't rely on any of the old, ineffective traditional marketing methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn, have a chat. The link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.